Hey folks, it's Dominique back here with you. We're broadcasting live from my veranda today. I will be back with you with some, some actual recorded YouTube videos. Unfortunately, we're experiencing some technical issues, and recently, unfortunately, we just have not had the time over on my end, myself or any of the folks who work with me on Welcome to My World or Dominique Does Life. We simply have not had time to kind of fool with that darn YouTube video editor, so we are enlisting the help of a very brave and wonderful friend who is going to assist us in installing some more appropriate video editing software that I finally broke down and bought. So if you're waiting for some videos and you're thinking, what the heck, she's only putting up podcasts, don't fret, I'll be back. So what we're going to talk about today, and again, in the comments, if the outside noise is too much for you, please let me know. I would love to modify anything that's causing you disruption or preventing you from hearing what I'm saying. I'd like to be able to modify that in future. So if this isn't working out for you and you're not feeling it, please let me know in the comments section, respectfully and kindly. So we're going to talk today a little bit about grief, and we're going to talk about how to be able to appropriately be there for somebody who is experiencing grief, and how to be able to be there in a meaningful way for somebody who is grieving, who, this could be the loss of a job that they've held for many years. I want to talk really quickly about what grief is. So again, this could literally be something as seemingly simple as, a job that was lost, a home. You lost your home. My God, that's grief right there, isn't it? You lost your best friend. You're grieving the end of a relationship, right? So it doesn't have to be the loss of a loved one. And I really do want to submit that we've all experienced grief in our lives, and that we all will. I know that there's a lot of popularity right now circulating around the idea that everything we think and do and say has to be totally positive and has to be, not infected, if you will, by negativity of any kind. But I want to submit to you guys right now, and you can take this check to the bank and cash it, that everybody needs balance, emotionally speaking. Excuse the allergies today, folks. Everybody needs balance, emotionally speaking. Everyone needs to be able to feel the hard things and the bad things, as well as the good things and the happy things. Because if we're not feeling the hard things, then how are we going to be able to appreciate the good things, right? And I think that's kind of a positive outlook in and of itself. I am currently watching right now, as we speak, one of those horrible disasters about to happen, as a truck with really high clearance is about to plow through a building with a little overpass. So forgive me if I'm sounding a little distracted. This is not going to end well. I am one of those people who witnesses bizarre things, I'll tell you. So, thankfully that doesn't cause me grief, right? But, anything in life can cause you grief. And it's okay if it does. It's okay if it does. Now, I'm not going to suggest rather that, the fact that Starbucks got your coffee wrong is a reason to grieve, right? But if a pet dies, if you lose your job, if you lose your home, if you've lost a large portion of your money, if you're grieving a relationship, that's definitely a loss, and that's definitely a reason to grieve. So these are absolutely valid reasons to feel grief. So these are some of the situations, other than the death of a loved one or a close friend, that we might be grieving. And I personally consider animals to be right up there with family members. I'll tell you right now that personally I grieve the loss of my cat Roy very close to as much as I grieve the loss of my dad and my grandpa and one of my best friends. So it's okay to feel that, and don't let anybody tell you what feelings are appropriate for you at the time. So when it comes to grief, again, just to quickly recap, there are many situations that can cause it. Many situations. So I want to validate your feelings and your experiences and your subjective viewpoint in this life, because it's important to acknowledge when we're feeling feelings like this. And this goes doubly, folks, for other people. We may acknowledge or, suppress, depending on what kind of people we are, our own emotions, right? But when it comes to others, for some reason, they just don't always seem as immediate. And so we get stuck in our own lives and our own stuff, and sometimes we don't acknowledge the grief and the loss and the feelings that other people are going through. And think about that for a moment. I understand that we're all busy people, but it's so important to be there for the people that we love and that we care about. And, gosh, I'm even somebody who will go up to somebody who is crying on the street and ask if there's anything I can do for them. So I'm not suggesting that you have no boundaries. You should always have appropriate boundaries for you, whatever that may be. But it's very essential that we're able to be there for other people that we love when they're grieving. And it's very essential that we're not minimizing their emotions and telling them what they should and shouldn't feel. That's not appropriate. And I know that sometimes it's uncomfortable to watch somebody grieve, to watch somebody hurt. But that is not appropriate. And it's very important that we do unto others, right? That we treat others the way that we would want to be treated, or that we have been treated, that we've appreciated when we have been grieving. So just a thought to share with you guys. It's important to be there for others. And let's talk about that very briefly. In fact, I do want to quickly finish up with the point I was going to make. So what I was going to say to you guys, and I'm going without notes today, so forgive my scatterbrain here, but what I was going to mention to you guys is that there is a difference between grief and trauma as well. For instance, if you have everybody's different, but if you've lost a job that you held for 6 months, sure, you may be grieving that situation, right? Most people, at least, would probably be grieving that situation, but they wouldn't be traumatized. If your dad dies, your mom dies, your brother, your sister, your very best friend, you're going to be going through both grief and trauma. And it's so important that we are able to understand and acknowledge how to treat folks who are experiencing trauma as well as grief. So let's talk briefly about how we can be there for other people when they are having a tough time, when they're grieving, when they're going through trauma. So let's talk very quickly about the don'ts before we head on to the positive things and the do's. So the don'ts. And I know that it's possible that folks may have emotional reactions to what I'm about to say. I want you to still hear me and try to listen and battle through that reaction. If you're feeling attacked or emotional about what I'm about to say, please try to hear me out if you are able. And I think you are able. So here's what we don't want to do when folks are grieving. We don't want to say things like, and this one is a real doozy, we don't want to say things like, well, God needed another angel. Oof. Yeah. Might feel like a platitude that is appropriate at the time to us when we say it, but can you imagine how hurt the person in front of you is going to be when you tell them that their mom died because God capriciously wanted to have another play friend? That's not appropriate. Don't make that suggestion. Even if you're talking about somebody's dog dying or cat dying or, aunt or uncle dying, again, not an appropriate suggestion. Please, if that one does pop into your mind because you've maybe heard it before or you've seen it on some of these motivational websites, please, my friends, keep that one to yourself. That's not an appropriate suggestion. And I'm not saying that you're your head wasn't in the right place. I'm certainly not trying to suggest that you weren't trying to help. You very likely were trying to help. You very likely were trying to be a good friend. It's just not an appropriate suggestion to make, and it's not a kind thing to say to anybody who has lost somebody that they love. So, no suggestions about God wanting another angel or heaven needing another good person or cute dog or what have you. We're also not going to say things like, at least he or she died doing what they love. Does that make somebody feel better if, their loved one really enjoyed skiing and died in a skiing accident? I don't think so. I don't think so. In fact, it almost sounds as if we're making light of that person's passing. Or worse yet, it almost sounds as if we're suggesting that this person chose to die, which is totally inappropriate. And again, I'm sure that when this comes to our minds, we're thinking that we're trying to say something positive or that we're trying to, add something good to the person's day who we're speaking with, right? But we're not. That's not adding value. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that when it comes to discussing grief, adding value is not what we're here to do. We're here to listen, right? We're here to listen. We're here to be good friends and good loved ones. And we're here to be open to hearing what the person in front of us is trying to say or needs to say. We're here to help them process things. We're not here to make them okay with the passing of somebody they loved, because that's not going to happen. They're never going to be okay with losing this wonderful person in their life, right? So we've got to kind of stay away from that mentality of wanting to add something constructive or make them feel better. That's not going to happen at this time. And to have the expectation that, by saying one platitude, we can change their entire, outlook on this person's passing is in and of itself a touch narcissistic and a touch egotistical. And I'm sure that we don't mean it that way when what we say pops out of our mouths, but it just comes across that way. It comes across that way. So it's really important to be able to kind of self-regulate, realize that it's not about us, and realize that there's nothing we're going to be able to do to make things better. It's just not possible. You can't make somebody feel better after they've lost somebody that they love. It's just not possible. The only thing you can do is to be a good friend, to be a good loved one, and to make sure that you're showing this person that you're there for them, right? That's the only thing you can do. You can't do any more than that. And I understand that it's human, right? It's human nature to try to do something more than that, but it's just not possible. It's not possible. So I'm out here watering my plants as we're speaking, and I hope that isn't detracting from your listening experience. But again, if it is, let me know. I want to talk to you about a couple of other things that we should kind of try to avoid and stay away from when it comes to being there for somebody who we love, who has lost somebody that they love. It's important not to overwhelm them. It's important to, for instance, I had a very amazing friend who did wonderful things for me when my dad passed away last September. I mean, she really was just indispensable. She helped him in a way that I can't even express. And she helped my family in a way that I can't even express. So I'm certainly not here to cast any blame on her. If she's listening, she's amazing. She is one person who I think wanted to kind of surround me with people after the passing of my dad, and that, at that time I just wasn't able to do that. Like, she had invited me out with friends a couple of times, and she had invited me to join her and some of her friends to do a couple of things. And obviously, I'm not in any fit state at that time to be around people I don't know, right? I'm not in any state to be around people that I'm not comfortable crying in front of, or feeling upset or angry in front of. So when you've got an impulse like that to just surround the person with people, please try to check that, and please try to understand where it's coming from. Try to understand why you feel the need to do this. Is it for the person that's grieving, or is it because you may not be entirely comfortable yourself with grief? I know there were people in my life at the time that my dad passed away who seemed to be afraid to be around me, like I was going to have some weird grief explosion. Well, if you know me, you know that I'm not a terribly emotional person. Not that I don't love and care for the people in my life, but I just am not an emotional person. So although it is very good to expect the unexpected and to be there to kind of hold space for friends and loved ones who may have an extreme reaction, it's also not totally appropriate to expect them to act like completely different people just because they're grieving. So trying to surround them with lots and lots of people might feel to them like you don't want to be alone with them because their grief is too much for you. And folks, they don't need to be taking care of us when they're grieving. They don't need to be worrying about what we're comfortable with. They've just gone through one of the biggest losses they'll ever experience. They've lost somebody incredibly important to them, and to kind of try to change up it, flip the script on them, and have them caring for us and taking care of us is just not appropriate at that time. A couple of other suggestions of things not to do would be, don't in any way make light of the person's passing. Now, when my dad died, for instance, I personally, everybody wouldn't feel this way, so I just want to let you know that, but I personally felt that it was a brave choice for him to kind of let go and to go out on his own terms and to decide, okay, so the prognosis is that there's no treatment for me and I'm going to let go. And I felt that was very brave. Not everybody would feel that way. So try to stay away from talk like, wow, this person was so brave to let go. This person was so brave to go out on their own terms. This person was so, strong to let go and to move on. I understand that is something you're trying to say that you feel has a positive spin, but it's not going to be positive to everybody. To some people, that may feel as if you're telling them that their loved one didn't want to be around them anymore, and that they didn't need their loved one in their life anymore. So stay away from these sorts of things. Stay away from trying to make light. Stay away from statements that begin with the term "at least." Stay away from statements that center around God or religion, or, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but stay away from any statements that center around God or religion. Stay away from any statements that center around it being good that person has passed away, or it being good that person has passed away doing A, B, or C, X, Y, or Z. It's not important for us to get across our point when somebody that we love is experiencing a loss. What is important is that the grieving person is able to express themselves and deal with their feelings. So the only thing we need to do, and yes, it can feel uncomfortable, I'm not going to lie, The only thing we need to do, the only job we have, is to be a listening ear. Ask them if they'd like to talk about anything and let them know that we're here for them if they would like to talk. Now, of course, we don't need to sit around saying, hey, is there anything you would like to say, Bob? Every time we see them, Susan, would you like to talk about anything? I mean, there are times that this person really is just going to want to go out for lunch, but what you're going to want to do is be a listening ear for them. Just show them through your actions, even when you're not asking them if they'd like to talk. Show them, demonstrate through action that you are willing to listen to them and hear what they need to say. You may even ask them questions about their loved one. You may say something like, oh, well, I didn't know John too well, but it sounds like John really enjoyed volleyball. As long as he didn't pass away playing volleyball, it's a safe subject. So, ask them about the good times. Ask them about what their loved one enjoyed doing. Ask them questions about who this person was, what they were like. Share memories with them and be a listening ear. That's the most important thing that you can do. I hope that this has helped you in some way, and I really hope that if you are experiencing grief yourself, that others will treat you in a kind and respectful way, and that the people around you will be able to be there for you in an appropriate way. And I hope that if you are dealing with somebody that you love and or care for who is experiencing grief, I hope you'll be able to be there for them in this way. Again, it does sound counterintuitive because we're told, society tells us, society, by the way, is not always the very best advice giver, but society tells us that we need to say something comforting, do something to make the person feel better, etc., right? But that's not the case. That's not the case. Society really, as a whole, not everybody in it, but as a whole, society likes platitudes. Society likes saying things that make us feel better, but really don't do much for the recipient of what's being said. So please keep these things in mind. Be real. I really think that this topic is just so important for all of us who are kind of moving down the path toward being as real as possible and as genuine as possible and living our lives in the most genuine ways that we can. It's very important to be genuine friends, to be genuine to ourselves and to our loved ones. And so I hope you'll consider this going forward, whether you're the one grieving, whether you're comforting someone who's grieving. And don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't saturate this person with positive thoughts and cute little sayings. These aren't the things that count in friendship and in family. These aren't the things that count. The things that count are things that we say that come from our hearts. The best thing, I'm going to leave you with this, the very best thing you can say to somebody who's grieving is, and this goes for even those of us who have experienced a hell of a lot of grief ourselves, say to somebody when you realize they've lost someone or are going through grief, I am so sorry for your loss. I can't imagine what you must be going through. I'm here if you'd like to talk. Now, if you say I'm here if you'd like to talk, you need to follow that up by actually being there and by actually reaching out. And I want you to remember that grief isn't going to go away in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. It's an ongoing thing. So I'm not suggesting that you treat everyone who's grieving like special snowflakes, but please acknowledge that they're going through this process and that it is a lifelong process. The first 5 years after losing a really close loved one are usually fairly difficult. I'm going to be totally real with you on that. Grief doesn't go away. You only get stronger and more able to handle it as time goes by. You develop your own memories without the person. You honor the memories you have with the person, right? You live your own life and you incorporate what this person has taught you and how they've been there for you into your life, right? That's how you honor them. Now, another great thing to do, and another place, unfortunately, that people get stuck very often is offering to do whatever the person needs. Saying something like, well, anytime you need something, please let me know, is nice, but somebody who's grieving is not going to reach out to you and let you know they need a load of laundry done. That's not going to happen. So I think the best things that you can do for somebody who's grieving are shopping, laundry, helping them to pay bills if you're a close family member or friend, right? Say, hey, let's sit down and look at your bills and write some checks. And if you're comfortable offering money to them, if they're struggling, then you get out your checkbook and you help them. You don't ask them, what bill do you need help with, Frank? You just write that $80 for their gas and send it out, right? So again, this isn't for acquaintances. This is for like close family and friends. Just throwing that out there. But for acquaintances and friends and family, saying something like, well, whatever you need, let me know, is not appropriate. It makes you feel better in the moment, and it excuses you of having to offer anything else in future. So what you need to do is you need to say, hey, would you like a load of whites thrown in? I'll be over at 6, and I'm going to bring you a casserole. Do you eat meat? Oh, you don't? Okay, I'm going to make you a vegetarian casserole. Bring it over at 6. Don't even wait for them to say yes. Sometimes we just need to bring it over. And if they don't answer the door, that's fine. It's not an affront to you. It's not a slap in the face to you. Leave it at the door with a note. Make sure it's packaged so that it's going to be safe sitting out there for a little bit. Leave a note. Let them know that you will be by again tomorrow at 6 to help them throw in some laundry. If they really don't want the help, they will tell you. It's the very best thing to do. Now, I'm not suggesting to come by every single day, but if they don't open the door when you come, don't answer the phone when you call, you show up, you drop off whatever you need to drop off, you tell them I'm going to try again tomorrow, right? So it's as simple as that. If they do open the door and you do talk and you are able to help them out, you tell them, okay, what time would you like for me to come by next week? Or later this week, so that we can throw in a load of blacks for you, or so that we can throw in a load of colors for you, or so that we can stop off at the Jewel for you. And if you are doing grocery shopping for the person and you're financially comfortable, it's always appropriate to offer to buy their groceries. Again, this isn't necessarily for an acquaintance, but for like a family member or a friend, it's totally appropriate to just buy them groceries and not expect money. They are probably taking time off of work. They are probably, having a rough time if they're having to pay for funeral and burial costs. So doing things like that are very helpful. If you're not as financially well off yourself, buy them a cup of coffee. Buy them a cup of tea. Come by with breakfast one day. So these are the things we can do to help. Offering is nice, doing is better. And again, if somebody doesn't pick up the phone, doesn't answer the door, it's not an affront to you, it's not an insult to you, they're not saying they don't want to talk to you, they're unable to cope at the moment, and that's okay. So, folks, I hope this has helped you. Thanks for listening and tuning in. I would love for you to share your experiences below, either right here on this app or on the YouTube channel, Dominique Does Life. Share your experiences. If you are going through grief right now and you need some coaching, some psychotherapy, someone to sit and talk to who isn't connected to you or your situation, who is not going to judge you or, speak about you to anyone else, I'm here for you professionally. If you just need a friend to chat with, I'm here for you in the comments section. Share your story. I'll do whatever I can to be there for you. If you are looking to come in as a client, please feel free to shoot me an email at my business email, Trinity SS Wellness and Consulting, and is a word, not a symbol. So Trinity SS Wellness and Consulting at gmail.com. Be well, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk with you later.